Hey, in this video, I want to share with you 5 things that keep most people poor that rich people don't really do. All right, so if you're interested, let's go. By the way, in this video, make sure you hit the subscribe button and the bell button so that you get notified from the YouTube algorithm. My goal is to publish one of these videos every single day for you. So with that being said, it's Shaqir Hussyin here, founder of funnels.com, and let's go. Now the reason why I want to share this with you especially is I was just having a chat with my video guy, Mikey. And Mikey's been traveling around the world with me for many years, especially when I went and did the Backpack Millionaire tour. You know, we impacted like 25,000 people's lives through our live events all over the world. And Mikey's now coming, living with me for a while. And I thought, I was just talking to Mikey about rich people versus poor people. And I asked him, Mikey, you see me making millions of dollars. He's seen me actually make tens of millions of dollars. And I said, Mikey, how do you feel about these things? How do you process these things? And one of the things he said to me was, when he was growing up, he was taught rich people are filthy, they're evil, they're greedy, things like this. And Mikey actually comes from Indonesia. And you know, it just got me thinking, because I also know many countries, culturally, so many countries actually put this in, right? Like, money is the root of all evil. Like, rich people are bad. Like, it's not good to be greedy. Like, money is the root of all evil. And I don't agree with all of it, maybe some of it. Bottom line is this: what I found in my journey over the last 10 years, from going from zero to more than $30 million in sales before the age of 30, is that rich and poor people have a specific blueprint or in their mindset on how they operate. And today I just want to share with you 5 things that rich people do that poor people don't. And so the number one thing is understanding this cause and effect relationship. Right? Like, so what is cause and effect? It's like every single cause that you have in your life right now, how much money you have in your bank account, who you've been married to, or who you date, or the kind of business you have, or the job, 9-to-5 job you have, or literally the lifestyle that you have, the house that you live in. Every one of these things, they are a result, they are the effect of something that caused it, right? So for example, if you have a 9-to-5 job and you've been there for say 10 or 20 or 30 years, that means the cause was you probably went to school, you went to college, you went to university, you got a degree, you got a job, and before that you are conditioned by friends, family, grandparents, society, media, TV, all of this to follow that path. And so that is the cause, and the effect is your current reality. And what I find with rich people is that they choose to always bend their reality. They find themselves in control of not just the effects of the life, but the causes. So they are very in tune, and they are on a vibration. So now it's getting woo-woo, please forgive me, but they are on a vibration where they realize if they take responsibility, they can create change, transformation inside of their life. And this is what I find to be very, very true to all of the people that I've met who are very, very successful. And I'm not just talking about like rich in money. I'm talking about people that tend to be very fulfilled, happy, peaceful, present. They are somewhat in control of their reality. Versus a poor person, when I meet someone who's not necessarily poor, but they're broke, right? They're broke in mentality, and they're broke in their business, or they're broke financially or emotionally or spiritually or physically. They tend to blame others. They tend to criticize others. They tend to put the responsibility from their life onto the others, as if the government let them down, their friends and family let them down, society let them down, as if their reality is controlled by everything around them, right? Like I remember when I first started making money on the internet and I seemed somewhat successful, I had driven my car back to the streets where I grew up. And you know, I grew up in a council flat. I grew up with people that were somewhat like from the low income household, right? And I remember like driving down and I meet one of the kids that I grew up with. And he like waves me down and starts talking to me. And I never forget this, right? He comes up to me and he's like, man, you left us. And I was thinking to myself, okay. And he says, you left us, right? And there's no one looking after me, man. You know, someone just gave me this opportunity. I had to actually travel around the world, travel to, especially back in the day, when there wasn't much live events in London, I had to travel to America. And by the way, when I said travel to America, that time I didn't have money to go to America, but I knew that all these conferences and seminars were happening in America. So I had to travel there, and I was getting mentorship and coaching and consulting, and I was investing in myself because I realized, wow, I wanted to change the effects of my life, so I need to change the cause. Right? And so anytime you find yourself blaming, criticizing, being a pessimist, being so skeptical that you're afraid to take action, you're afraid to move forward, just realize these are the habits that poor people have. These are the habits that broke people have. And so if you continue like that, where everything is, oh, it's too good to be true. Oh, it's not that easy. Oh, this guy didn't give me the secret. You know, the truth of the matter is you must take full responsibility. And as soon as you do that, you start to create an immense level of power, of control and presence, where you can actually start thinking. You know, anytime you find yourself blaming and criticizing, a little mental mind hack that I do is I say to myself, I must take responsibility. Right? Something goes on, hey, I must take responsibility. I get a surprise tax bill, more than $500,000, and it was completely surprised. It was like a punch in the gut, and I was like, oh my gosh, okay? There's a whole reaction. We'll make another video around that. But I remember thinking to myself, this is so crazy. What do I need to be doing? And the first thing that came to my mind was, Shaq, what would wealthy people do? Okay, take responsibility. And I paid that off. And so anytime you feel stuck, that's the mental hack. That's the one mental hack that if you switch on your head, I take responsibility. Campaign screwed up, take responsibility. You don't like the way you look, the way you smile, the way you talk, the way you communicate, the way your business is run, the way you buy traffic, the way you set up your business. Anything in your life, just think to yourself, I take full responsibility. Okay, so that's number one. Number two thing that I see rich people versus poor people is, it's so crazy to say this, but this is the truth. People that are usually poor and broke, they think they know it all. It's like so crazy, you know. I sometimes bring on clients, and sometimes new clients where we do live events, and sometimes they'll even come to my penthouse. And I could just tell, like, the people that are successful, they're running, you know, 6, 7, 8-figure businesses, sometimes 9-figure businesses, and they come to me for, say, consultations and coaching and stuff. They tend to ask questions and then just listen, right? Like, they're listening and they take notes. When I meet someone who's poor and broke, they just want to talk. It's like the craziest thing. I'm like, in my head, I'm like, I never used to do that, right? Like right now I'm talking because I believe I have value to share, so I'm talking. And I hope someone watches this video. If you like these videos, by the way, hit the like, subscribe button. I gotta say those things. When I used to go and meet people that were more successful than me, I would ask a question and then I'd like be quiet, and I would always, I still do this, right? Like that's why I have so many journals in my house. I'd always pick up my journal and I would always take notes. I would always carry a little notepad with me and I would just take notes non-stop, because I was in a state, and I'm still in a state of I'm open to learning. This like really baffles me. Sometimes I'll meet someone and they have like no idea what I really do, no idea how many businesses or what companies I have and how they operate, but they've maybe watched one of my YouTube videos or they've joined one of my programs and they have this need and urge to just like give me business advice. And I'm like, what are you talking about? Like, I don't say that because I don't want to be disrespectful, but I'm like, what are you talking about? Right? Like, what are you talking about? Like, chill out, right? You don't need to give me business advice. But they have this innate nature as if they know something that I don't. And sure, I'm open to learning from everyone, but calm yourself down when you feel like you know it all. Is this making sense to you? Right? Let me know if this stuff is making sense. Comment below in the comment section, okay? I'm going to be reading all the comments myself and responding to you personally. So I'd really appreciate if this stuff is making sense to you. Okay, I meet very wealthy people, people that make hundreds of millions of dollars, even billionaires. And they always are in a state where they're learning. They are always in a state where they want to ask a question to humbly learn, right? So next time you find yourself, you're talking too much, you find yourself, here's a little test you can do. When you meet someone who you think is successful in any area of life, just do this self-awareness test. All right, here's the little self-awareness test that you can do that's going to really help you. And here's how it works. Ask yourself, next time you're in a room with someone, it could be a virtual Zoom webinar, a GoToWebinar, a live event, a meeting in person. Just ask yourself, just for your own self-awareness, when you go and talk to someone or when you meet someone, who does most of the talking? And when you leave, who's learned something? Is it you that you've asked a question and you've learned? Or is it that you've met someone and you've just talked? You getting this? Right? If you do this, I can assure you, okay, you are going to start behaving differently. What happens when you start behaving differently? I'll tell you what happens. You start to create a new personality of a student that's always learning. What happens when you develop that personality? You now start to create a new reality. You get that? That's how you transform your life. That's how you transform your business. And a little mental hack that I've learned, I learned this from my now friend. Back then he was a mentor, and still a mentor to me, a guy called Ibn Pagan, and he talked about when you go into a situation, and even if you've heard the information before, if you've read about it, heard about it, watched it, just tell yourself this one little concept: I only know 20% and I'm open to learning. Okay, and instantly what happens is your brain starts opening up. Because you know what's one of the worst things you can ever say? It's this: I already know this. As soon as you say that, I already know this, your brain starts to literally close down to new opportunities, to new thinking. And when I meet someone, and sometimes, they'll ask me for advice and I'm talking and they want to have this urge of like cutting me off, or even my staff members, right? Like especially when we do live events and stuff and we're talking and we're sharing and someone's like, oh, I already know that. Oh, I already heard that. When you say those things, right? Like you just close your mind off. So next time, just ask yourself, what's going on? Are you with me so far, right? So the next one, the next key, the next thing that holds people back, right? The difference between people that are rich and poor is that the poor and broke person is always almost has a very skeptical, pessimistic mindset, right? They are looking at how they can fail. They are looking at what if things don't work out. They are thinking, what if it's so hard? Or this is too much hard work. Whereas someone who I find to be on the other side, they are thinking about the opportunity, about the fact that it's going to be hard and they're willing to go through the hard things, right? So they aren't letting fear hold them back, right? That's what I consider the third thing that keeps poor people poor and rich people rich, is that they have a different relationship with fear, right? Like I have fear everyone has fear. It's just a human natural thing to have fear so that we can get protected, right? Because if you didn't have any fear, then you do stupid things like jump off a building, right? However, you have to learn, as Tony Robbins would say, to dance with fear, right? You have to understand that you can use fear instead of letting fear use you. So a little mental hack that I use is called the 5-second rule, and I got this from an author called Mel Robbins, and she basically talks about anytime you feel like, should I do this? I don't know, how am I gonna feel? And before that fear and paralysis just even comes into your brain, comes into your mind to hold you back, just give yourself 5 seconds. 5, 4, 3, and boom, just go do it, right? Just go do it. Just go do it. So even when you wake up in the morning and you're in bed, right? Like I do this when I wake up in bed, I think to myself, you know what I'm gonna do? 5, 4, 3, boom, I'm out. I'm like a rocket ship. Like I have so much energy in the morning, and I don't let myself have any sort of negativity. I mean, sure, I have negative thoughts and whatnot, but I don't let it drain me. I don't let that fear consume me. This is what a lot of people do, right? Especially people that are broke and poor, they let the fear consume them, right? Like you talk to them and all they do is just fear, 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 right? And one of the ways, another hack that I'll give you is something I learned early on in my career. I can't remember from who. I like to give credit to whoever I learned from, is GIGO. Okay, what is GIGO? Garbage in, garbage out. What that means is if you feed your mind negative news, drama, gossip, stuff that doesn't really serve you, right? So for me, I don't watch TV, I don't read the news, I rarely ever get on social media to consume other people's stuff, because most of the time when I see anyone posting politics and stuff, I don't vibe with any of that, right? Like the reason is because me single-handedly will never be able to really change politics, or nor do I care too much about it. So I just tend to stay away from it. Does that make sense? I stay away from things that I can't control. And the politics, media, TV, all this gossip that people tend to just soak their intelligent brain on, I just don't make any room for it in my life. Does that make sense? Now, sure, every now and then, someone from a friend or someone is going to share some news that's maybe related to me, or that I should pay attention to, obviously, so I'm not completely ignorant as to what's going on in the world. But most of the time, I want to stay focused in what we call our genius zone, right? The things that you're naturally good at, the things that you have strengths in, so that I know it's coaching business entrepreneurs, it's speaking, it's coming up with great new ideas, marketing and selling, it's being a CEO and developing new products, new software, new tools, hiring new people, right? So the nitty-gritty day-to-day stuff, I'm away, right? And so you have to figure out the fearful things. What are the things that you're always fearful of, right? And I can assure you, it's this concept like whatever, garbage in, garbage out, right? So I am very focused on standing guard, as Jim Rohn would say, standing guard in front of my mind. I'm very specific as to who I let into my life, even the customers, right? Like most of my clients that even apply to work with us, like 70% of them have to be turned away because they're not a right fit, and my team will figure out, okay, they're not there in the right space, okay, they're not qualified, that's fine. So that's why I have so many funnels, sales funnels, right? Because I gotta filter out, because two things, right? Like as a business owner, your clients and the employees, right? The quality of your clients and the quality of your employees will dictate the stress levels in your life, okay? Just keep that one in mind. So just understanding fear, right? Like what is your relationship with fear? If you have some childhood trauma, childhood past that experience different levels of fear that doesn't serve you right now, it is now your responsibility. Yes, it is now your responsibility to overcome that fear, to let go of mental trauma, any sort of trauma, bad experiences that you've gone through, right? Because here's another thing. I see poor and broke people always holding on to their past. I'm like, that happened 5 years ago. That happened 15 years ago. What's going on, right? And so your ability to let go of the past will determine how fast you can move on. You know, you got bullied in school, this person dumped you, you dumped this person, your heart was broken, someone betrayed you, you know, someone stole money from you. That's the reason why you don't start another business. You know how many people stole money from me, right? Like, I've had like $650,000 cash stolen from me, right? This is from employees. When I was younger, I was a little bit wild, right? And so, you know, I used to give my bank account details and my credit cards and all of this stuff to people, and I had like over $600,000 cash stolen from me, right? Like, this is real cash. I've lost over $1.1 million in investing in bad startup companies because I used to just I was so out there. I was like, oh, I'm gonna believe in everyone that wants money, so I just hand out 50, 100K, 500K checks. And when things didn't work out, if listen to me, if I stayed in that field, then I would have always been playing not to lose. That's what broke and poor people do. They play not to lose, so they're always in scarcity mode, right? Whereas a wealthy and rich person, you know what they do? They play to win, right? That leads me into my fourth thing, and that one is making it a habit of coming outside your comfort zone, making it a habit every single day. Do one thing that pushes you, right? Do one thing that you feel like, oh my gosh, I thought I could never do this. Now you can, every single day. And the easiest way I know how to do this is just ask yourself, are you growing today or are you dying, right? If you are spending all your time lazing around, you know, just ask yourself during this pandemic, like what's going on with you? Are you actively learning, growing, investing in yourself? Are you pushing yourself? Or are you actually watching Netflix and binging on videos and binging on just consuming information but never acting on it, right? Like, these are the things that you want to ask yourself. Are you doing things that scares you, or are you doing things that you're just comfortable, right? You're just like cozied up and you don't want to hurt yourself, right? Like, what is the thing? Because your level of comfort and discomfort will determine your success. One of the things that I discovered early on is that successful people have really high pain threshold, okay? And what if you don't have a high pain threshold? Well, now's the time to develop it. And how do you develop it? By pushing your comfort zone over and over and over again, so that your pain threshold keeps going up and up and up. Is that making sense? Is this good stuff? Let me know in the comment section, because I'm fired up. I'm excited to share this stuff with you. Listen, this is the same stuff that took me from zero, being broke, living with my parents, you know, the whole 9 yards, you know, to becoming a multi-millionaire in my early 20s. Okay, in my early 20s, cash liquid multi-millionaire. And I don't say that to brag. I'm saying this to impress upon you what's possible if you do this right, if you get this, okay? My last one is something that I tend to see. It's a habit that a lot of people have, especially from when they're growing up. It's like a mental baggage of just judging other people. Okay, when I meet someone and they immediately just, like, everyone judges everyone. Okay, it's just one of those things. Now, if you are someone who's judging non-stop to the point where you're like, she or he makes so many typos, you know, every single mistake, you're like just pointing it out. Just realize that's where your focus is, that's what you're attracting, and that's as big of a reality as you're gonna make it. Whereas people that are wealthy and rich and they're successful, they don't focus on judging people or judging just the past situations. They focus on how do we utilize this or that person, and how do we grow to the next level. I see poor people, broke people, Okay, and you have to understand, I'm not talking about this stuff because I read some books, although there's a lot of books behind me, okay? It's not because I've read some books, it's through real life experience, meeting people in person and realizing that, wow, when I meet someone who's successful or is on the path to becoming successful, you know, they project a different vibe, okay? And this is gonna sound weird, but this is the truth. This is why you hear things, right? Rich people hang out with other rich people. Once you're rich, you always get rich. Once you have money, it's easier to make money. It's true, right? Like wealthy people hang out with wealthy people. Rich people hang out with rich. That's why you'll see when you meet successful people, most people around them are successful. And when you meet someone who's poor and broke, they usually have what else in common? What else do they have? They have lots of poor, broke people around them. Right? And so one of the things is not being able to, is reducing and eliminating and trying your best to reduce that judgment that you have on other people, right? If you start judging people straight from the get-go, then you hold yourself back. I'll give you an example. Someone that I know, okay, who's a relative of mine, he comes to my house and me and one of my marketing guys, we're talking about this guy on YouTube and he's doing really well and I'm learning a lot from him. And this relative of mine just like looks at me and is like, oh, I don't like that guy. And I'm like, this relative of mine, he doesn't have a business, he's starting out, so I can tell where he's at in his mind, right? Like he's way far. And he says to me, oh, I don't like the way that the guy sounds or looks or something like that. You know, and I looked at him and I said, you know, forget judging other people. I don't ever tell my wife, check out the weather. What do you have for dinner? Like all of these nitty gritty things. I mean, sometimes I do ask her what she had for dinner. Most of the time it's with me. But anyway, the nitty gritty stuff, right, that don't push the needle, I am not interested in that, right? Anytime I find myself talking about other people, judging other people, gossiping, drama, like who cares, right? Like these are the things that you want to eliminate from your life. If it's not going to push you, if it's not going to help you get to the next level, you must reduce it. And I turned around to my relative and I said, you may not judge, you might judge the person based on how he sounds, how he looks, what he dresses, whatever, but that guy is making $700,000 a month. And I think he's like maybe 34, 35 years old, or maybe younger. Are you with me? Right? And it reminds me back when, you know, I spent a whole week with a gentleman called Dan Pena. Okay, now some of you like him, some of you don't like him, some of you don't even know who he is, but whatever. And this is someone who's super just judged, right? Like I judged him, everyone judges him. I mean, I judged him and then I was like, okay, I'm still gonna go spend like 20,000 pounds, I think it was, or $20,000 and spend a week with him in his castle. Now that is someone that people judge, but they don't look behind the curtain. They don't look behind, oh, he swears a lot, he comes across like really, he's like a dinosaur. I mean, he lives in a castle in the middle of nowhere in Scotland. So, sorry Dan, if you're watching this, I know you watch my videos, but you know, bottom line is this, right? Like people look at that and they're like, oh, I don't want to learn from him. But behind the whole facade, the image, the videos, right? Like to spend some good time with him, you can actually learn a lot. Like the guy has some wisdom that you can learn from. Now, if you are judging someone on how they look, how they sound, how they behave, and you're not bothered to look behind what's happening, then you are the only person that's gonna hold yourself back. Are you with me? Right? Is this stuff great stuff? I mean, just let me know if this stuff is making sense to you. Let me know in the comment section below. All right. By the way, hit that subscribe button, smash the like button. Let me know, right? And so I sound like a YouTuber. That's what I plan to be. And here's the literal mental hack. Okay, so unlike other videos that you watch on YouTube, they just give you a bunch of information. I want to give you information, but I also want to give you specific tools and frameworks of thinking so that you can action it, right? And this is why I give you these mental little hacks that's taken me years to develop and learn. So this mental hack is something that I tell myself, which is you don't have to like the messenger to appreciate the message, right? That's a writer-downer, right? And I developed this one because back in 2009, 2010, I had met this character. Okay, I won't mention his name, but he was such a unique character, you know, and so like over the top. I mean, just to kind of explain to you, I was attending this event and he had got on stage and I think he was barefoot and he basically just said, hey, I live in the mountains and I just came to this country with 10 grand cash in a bag and I just went to Harrods and I bought a Rolex. Like, it was just this ridiculous story that he said. And I remember like people looked at him and like they thought, that guy's weird, you know, and he was like making all these big claims and stuff. And I remember just looking at him and thinking, I may not like a few things about him, and that's okay. Hey, you might not like how I sound, how I look, how I dress, and that's okay. But I said to myself, I may not like some things about him, but that doesn't stop me from learning from him. And so I developed this thinking framework, which is appreciate the message even if you don't like the messenger, right? And this is why I see myself as a student. I'm always learning. Like, I don't never think to myself, oh yeah, you know, I make more money than her or him and I can't learn, or, you know, he's so younger than me, what can I don't care if the person is 12 years old or 15 years old or they're 70 years old. Like, I'm a student. And as long as you can keep these things in mind and these principles of cause and effect, taking responsibility, right? Making sure that you don't think that you know it all. Don't be a Mr. Know-it-all, right? You know, I remember, just to add to that, Mr. Know-it-alls, one of my mentors who was on stage, he was sharing, Mr. Know-it-alls usually have large egos and small bank accounts. And I was like, this is maybe 2009, 2010. I was like, he's talking about me. Okay. Like, big egos, small bank account. Don't be a Mr. Know-it-all. And if you're a female, don't be a Miss Know-it-all, okay? And so the next one is about understanding fear and how fear controls you, drives you, how you control fear, right? Like, you let what fears control you and not. Fourth one is making sure that you're always breaking through your comfort zone, right? Like, are you doing something that's scary every single day? If not, what could you do? Right? Maybe it's that video. Maybe it's sharing that story on social media. Maybe it's making that sales presentation. Maybe it's writing those emails. Maybe it's calling 10 prospects. Maybe it's closing that deal. Remember that person that said no to you? Remember that person? I'm sure. They're in a relationship, in sales, in business, whatever. Go back to that person. See if you can mend things up. Follow up. Do things that are uncomfortable. Right? And the last one is being able to appreciate the message even if you don't appreciate or like the messenger, right? Not judging people and projecting your insecurities on other people. Those are the 5 things. I assure you, if you can get rid of those 5 things that holds most people back, for that I see a quality that poor and broke people have, unsuccessful people have, you can shift, and the shift can happen almost immediately. You can shift to start thinking like a rich, wealthy, successful person.